Part 3, Calanais. I push on to Ullapool but stop for a forest walk in Rose Hall, where I see my first ever cicadilla. Introduced from Japan over 100 years ago, 3 female descendants cross my path, but soon blend into their surroundings. We have 3 native species of deer in Scotland: the red deer, the roe deer, and the fallow deer. Unlike the cicadilla, they established themselves in Scotland about 10,000 years ago, after the Ice Age. A great spotted woodpecker flies past, swooping up and down until it lands on the trunk of a birch tree a few hundred yards away. There's so much going on if we just take the time to wait and watch. The ferry to Ullapool has a massive viewing gallery at the front of the boat. The bow is the proper name for the front of a boat, and the stern is the name for the back of the boat. Port is the left side when facing forward, and starboard is the right side. I reach Stornoway around 8 o'clock and settle into another campsite in Laxdale, only a few hundred metres away from my first school. It's great to have some time to explore Lewis and Harris, 2 of my favourite Scottish islands. They're part of the Outer Hebrides. I visit Portness in Lewis and remember that I've been to the primary school there in the past. The children told me all about hunting and eating gugas, gannets to you and me. Now, this may sound a bit strange, but people have been eating gannets for hundreds of years in Lewis. Apparently they're quite salty and taste of fish, and are particularly nice with boiled potatoes. Each to their own, I suppose. I watch some Arctic terns feeding off the harbour wall, and then return home via a fairly unknown stone circle called Steinacleed. They think it's probably the remains of a prehistoric settlement, with an outer ring to keep animals. There's certainly still sheep and lambs here today. On a small loch there's more evidence of human habitation from a long time ago. The next day I make a bit of a pilgrimage to one of my favourite beaches, Hushnish Bay. Now, a few years back I wrote a book called Windscape, which features this very place. I call my beach Hushwish Bay, and tell a tale of a girl called Jenny MacLeod. Living alone with her father, people turn up to protest about a wind farm, but Jenny's father collapses with a heart attack, and she has to stay with another family. It's all not as it seems, however, as she is soon in a perilous adventure to save her father and her farm. The whole story is inspired by Harris and its wonderfully rugged landscape. The book examines wind farms, the pros and the cons, using an adventure story. I walk another mile north and end up opposite Scarp, a deserted island. The beach I end up in is even more stunning than Hushnish, and it's here that I see a flock of golden plovers and dunlins, and get an amazing view of a golden eagle. More about that majestic bird later. Soon it's time to visit my first school, Laxdale Primary School. I help launch the school's Reading Focus Week and speak to a packed assembly of P1s right up to P7s. The children are totally engaged, but there's a frightening moment where I'm almost turned into stone. The whole school cries out a spell from my book, Talisman. It sounds a bit like this. Yeah, exactly. Strange, eh? But let's hear the children say it. Be careful, you might turn me into stone. I get to learn much more about the stone circle at Calanais. Here's the circle's name in Gaelic, the first language of Laxdale Primary School.
Okay, Nisha, the Gaelic Calanais stones.
The Tuairseach in Calanais.
You can say it again.
The Tuairseach in Calanais.
Okay, that's the Calanais stones in Gaelic.
Calanais stones in Gaelic.
There are also a few legends and ideas surrounding the stones. Here are some of the children talking about them. What happened when they first found the stones?
Well, when they first found the tomb, the stones, they saw that there was a tomb beside them, and they found human remains in them.
Oh, right.
The Calanais stones may have been used to observe the moon.
Alistair, tell us what your theory is, Alistair.
Well, Caitlin said it was to observe the moon, and maybe when they were sacrificing people to the gods, maybe the real god didn't like it, and then he made a beam go down onto the people in the middle, and then it passed through all of them, and then it kept on passing to the other people, and that turned them into stone, and the last person was the one bang on in the middle.
You want to talk about the stones being tilted?
Some of our parents were watching the stones being lifted back up because they started to lean and they were about to fall, so they got re-lifted and re-secured.
Okay. After the school, I visit Calanais itself and stand in wonder at this amazing spectacle. Thousands of people travel from all over the world to see this sight. Then I visit Rescleet School. The school is only yards away from the stones at Calanais, and the children have produced some amazing poems inspired by the stones. We use these later on in a lesson at Kilmartin. We begin a story as a class, and I leave them to finish this off as I make my mad dash for the ferry to Uig. A good way to progress a story is to ask yourself some open-ended questions. These are questions that you can't simply answer with a yes or a no. For example, questions beginning with how, why, what, where, when, and who. These are useful for expanding a story. Features and creatures. Today's feature has to be the stones at Calanais themselves. The stones at Calanais are some of the oldest in the whole world. The rock they're made of is known as Loessian gneiss. They were laid down as the Earth's crust was cooling about 3,000 million years ago. That's 3 billion years ago. There are also legends surrounding the stones. One of these is that a great king came to set up the stones. Held by a dark-skinned people, the king was said to have been accompanied by a flock of wrens wherever he went. Here are a few other theories about Calanais from the children of Rescleet. What could the Calanais stones have been used for? I think it was a magical place for unicorns, said Rosanna of P3. I think it used to be used as a house, said Sandy in P4. I think it was used as a sky clock to measure the time, says Isabella in P5. I think it was a storytelling place, says Millie, P6. And finally, I think it was built to keep something hidden, says David of P7. Today's creature is the golden eagle. The golden eagle is one of the most majestic birds I have ever seen. The female is almost twice as big as the male and can weigh as much as 6.35 kilos. I once held one on my right arm at a falconry display, and it took all my power to keep my arm straight. They have a wingspan of almost 8 feet and have a hunting territory of 200 square kilometres. In some countries, they are used to hunt grey wolves. They can carry off animals twice their own body weight. Here are today's challenge questions. 1. Apart from the species of deer discussed in this article, there is another type of deer in Scotland, sometimes linked with Christmas. Can you name it? 2. What group of islands do Harris and Lewis belong to? 3. What is an open-ended question? 4. How big an area does a golden eagle have as its territory? I hope you've enjoyed today's blog. So, until next time, bye for now.